This is the story of Kim Woojin, a tired game developer working for a rising South Korean studio called AAA-grade. For months, he's been stuck debugging the same frustrating character, Deculein von Grahan-Yukline, an arrogant mid-boss who always dies early in the game. He hates this character. The guy is fake, prideful, a so-called genius with nothing to back it up. Just a villain created to fall for the sake of others. Nothing more than a stepping stone in the story. Then, one night, the screen flashes. The game doesn't crash. It ends perfectly. And the next moment, Woojin wakes up as Deculein, not in the office, not in his apartment, but inside the game. Now he's trapped in the body of the very character he designed to die. A man hated by everyone. A man doomed to fail no matter what, surrounded by enemies, buried under noble pride, walking a path lined with death flags. But Woojin has one thing no one else in this world does. He knows how the story ends. And this time, he's not going down so easily. Heavy rain pours down, drowning the world in a relentless downpour. A man sits slumped against an iron grill, his back pressed against the cold, unyielding surface. A sword is buried deep in his chest, the steel piercing through his body like a cruel final embrace. His breath is shallow, his body weak, but his spirit refuses to break. His gaze, filled with defiant pride, locks onto the woman gripping the hilt of the blade. Despite the unbearable pain, his eyes burn with a final demand. If she truly wants him dead, she must finish the job. The woman, her face devoid of emotion, does not hesitate. The blade twists inside his chest, splitting him open as blood gushes out. Not a single groan escapes his lips. Strength fades from his body, and he does not look away. His final words slip out. He tells the woman that she looks as beautiful as ever. His trembling fingers reach up, smearing blood across her cheek. But her expression does not change. She remains as cold as the day he first captured her heart. The world around him fades, and his body goes still. A notification appears, flashing on the screen. Engagement breaking. Condition: Deculein's death. Then another notification appears. Congratulations, stage cleared. A sigh of relief comes from a voice behind the screen. On the other side sits Kim Woojin, a tired man with dark circles under his eyes and a keyboard that's seen better days. He watches the game screen carefully. For hours, he has been fighting a bug that keeps breaking the final scene. Again and again, it crashed. Again and again, he fixed something and tried again. Now, for the first time, everything works perfectly. The game plays without freezing. The screen moves smoothly. The scene finishes without problems. Kim Woojin works at AAA-grade, a South Korean game studio that's been surprising the world lately. In the past, people thought the company was where game ideas went to die. No one took them seriously, but things changed. They started creating one successful game after another. Now people talk about AAA-grade with respect. Their newest game is their biggest project yet. All their money, all their time, and all their energy has gone into this one title. If it fails, the company might not survive. There's no backup plan. This game isn't like other games. The most exciting part is the dynamic difficulty. The story changes depending on what the player does. Every choice matters. Even though it's a single-player game, it feels alive. The AI thinks for itself. The characters feel real. Gamers all over the world are already excited. If AAA-grade can finish this game and launch it without problems, it could change everything. But if they fail, they'll be remembered as the studio that flew too close to the sun and burned. Players in this game are not locked into simple roles. They have a wide choice of character classes: knights with strong armor, mages with powerful spells, explorers who search the unknown, demons who play the evil path, demon hunters who fight them, nobles full of pride, and even kings who hold entire kingdoms in their hands. The game offers freedom, and every player can become whoever they want to be. If the game becomes a hit, it will rain gold for AAA-grade. But if it fails, the whole studio will come crashing down with it. There's no second chance. Kim Woojin sits back and sighs. His eyes stay on the screen, tired but focused. His thoughts turn to the character settings again. One name jumps out at him, one that's caused nothing but pain: Deculein von Grahan-Yukline. This guy has been the reason for so many sleepless nights. Woojin mutters to himself, but there's no hiding his frustration. He has been pulling overtime for months because of this single character. Deculein isn't just some background villain. He holds the title of head professor and plays a major part in the early part of the story. The episode Woojin just finished debugging focuses on his death, an important event that happens within the first 11 hours of gameplay. Deculein was never meant to live long. Woojin designed him with a very specific purpose: to lose. The guy acts clever, pretends to be important, and plays his little mind games. But in the end, he always fails, and he deserves it. For all his arrogance, Deculein is just a mid-boss, not the final threat. Yet somehow, his tangled role in different storylines kept breaking the game. Fixing him has been a nightmare. To make sure everything runs smoothly, Woojin planned his downfall carefully. This time, the arrogant villain meets his end at the hands of his own fiancée's blade. His poetic justice. A snake like him gets bitten back. Woojin stretches his stiff arms, thinking it's time to test the game again. But before he can continue, a voice calls from behind. He doesn't turn. He already knows who it is. The voice belongs to Yu Ra, team leader of the game development group. She doesn't need to introduce herself. They share too much history for that. Once, they were a couple together for 7 long years. Good years, mostly. Even with their differences, they had found joy together. Woojin never liked hard work, but Yu Ra's fire pushed him to grow. Her never-give-up attitude rubbed off on him, turning him from a lazy dreamer into someone who could actually finish what he started. But in the end, it wasn't enough. She wanted change. She wanted someone more open, someone who would talk, share, and connect. Woojin just wasn't that person. 6 months after they'd broke up, news reached him. She had moved on. It hurt, but he didn't say anything. Now the necklace around her neck confirms the rumor. A new relationship, a new chapter. He makes a small comment about it, trying to hide the sting in his chest. She answers simply. Nothing dramatic, just a quiet truth. Yes, things are going well. His fingers tap the mouse, a rhythm to cover the awkward silence. He wishes her happiness, even if it leaves a bitter taste. He wonders aloud if he sounds a little pathetic. She doesn't answer right away, but there's a small smirk on her lips. Her eyebrows lift slightly. She doesn't mock him, but she doesn't deny it either. She tells him to get back to work. There are changes in the settings, and the character models need updates. No time to sit around in the past. There's a game to finish and a deadline to meet. Woojin lets out a groan, tired and frustrated. The script keeps changing, and every new version brings another wave of confusion. He doesn't understand why the author refuses to keep things consistent. Deculein, in particular, annoys him. This so-called mid-boss keeps coming back stronger, acting like he's some big deal, when in reality he's nothing but a glorified speed bump. A flashy one, maybe, but still just a stepping stone. Yu Ra offers an explanation. She says it's intentional. Deculein starts weak, but becomes more powerful as the story moves forward. His strength grows based on the player's decisions. Woojin doesn't say much after that. His thoughts drift, but Ara isn't finished. She drops a bomb, says the model for Deculein is actually based on him. His head snaps around. Shock hits him hard. He doesn't believe it for a second. He thinks back to how little contact he had with the author. Only met them twice. That couldn't be enough to base a character on someone. But Yu Ra just smiles, a quiet and knowing smile. She says it's true. Then, almost casually, she points out that she just killed him off at the start of the game. That makes it worse somehow. Woojin doesn't find it funny. He wonders aloud if they even have similar personalities. Ara nods without hesitation. The answer comes too fast for his liking. He sighs, then makes a half-joke, one that touches on their breakup. It's bitter and half-serious. Her expression shifts. It hardens like stone. Woojin lifts his hands, pretending to surrender. He admits that maybe he sounds a little pathetic again. That word keeps following him around lately. Yu Ra has had enough of his self-pity. She cuts him off, changing the subject. She wants to talk about the game itself. She asks about the player experience. Woojin answers honestly. He thinks the game is fun, but it stresses him out. Too much is riding on it. The future of the whole studio depends on this single release. She tells him not to worry. The early trailer has already become a hit online. People are excited. The buzz is real. He says that's good news. If things go well, maybe he'll get a bonus. His desk is near the window, and he looks outside for a second. A sleek, shiny car waits by the front entrance of the building. He turns back to Ara and nods toward it. There's a quiet joke in his voice. He points at the car and asks Yu Ra if that is not her boyfriend out there. The guy looks like he's trying too hard, like he wants everyone to know he drives something expensive. Woojin wonders out loud who's more pathetic, him or the flashy driver outside. Ara doesn't respond. Woojin then asks her what she's doing here any longer. He tells her not to make him wait any longer. She should go to him. She agrees and says then she'll be leaving now, and her steps take her away before Woojin even turns to look. He stays focused on the screen, replying without meeting her eyes. He tells her to rest. She wishes him luck with his work and walks away. To him, she has always been more than perfect, not just on the outside, but deep within. Her kindness, her fire, her strength, it all added up to something rare. She had changed his life in ways no one else could. In his eyes, she had been his greatest treasure, the only person who ever made him believe that change was possible. Something real. Something worth fighting for. He whispers a goodbye even though he knows she won't hear it. The word disappears into the hum of the office. His chest feels tight for a moment, but then he lets out a deep sigh and turns his attention back to the glowing screen. It's time to test Deculein again. He shakes his head, almost laughing at how rough the author has been with this character. If this villain is really based on him, then the writer must have a personal grudge. Deculein has 6 main attributes and the backstory of a so-called magical genius. As a child, people praised him and placed him high above others, calling him gifted and rare. But in truth, he was just an average mage, nothing more. The fake image others built around him twisted his personality. His noble birth made things worse. He became proud, bossy, and full of himself. Woojin scrolls through the traits again: elitist, moody, too sensitive, always ordering people around, fake deep thinker, stubborn to the core, obsessed with control, and lacking faith in anything. The guy's a walking red flag. Deculein is supposed to grow as the story unfolds, but Woojin notices he's already surrounded by enemies. The whole world seems to be waiting to tear him down. That's what happens when you act like royalty without the crown to back it up. Woojin leans back and wonders if they should give Deculein one more layer, just something small. Something that makes him more human. Maybe a bit of empathy, or at least the ability to understand others. That way, players wouldn't hate him right away. He chuckles and starts typing. He gives Deculein some over-the-top traits, jokingly. A kind soul, filthy rich magic that turns anything to gold, sharp vision, and an iron body. It's a bit much. Even for a fantasy villain, it sounds ridiculous. After looking at it for a minute, Woojin sighs again. It's too much. He feels a bit embarrassed by what he added. Probably better to undo it before someone notices. He moves his mouse to remove the new traits and bring the character back to his original form. Just then, a soft sound breaks the quiet. A message pops up on the screen, pulling him from his thoughts. It's from Lane, the game's author and head of the AI department. Just from the name alone, anyone could tell he's not from around here. Woojin types back quickly, saying he's still working. He even offers to change the character models if needed. But the next message from Lane is strange. He says he's not here to give instructions. He's just watching. Woojin freezes. That word makes his skin crawl. Watching. He glances around the room. The lights flicker slightly, but the office is empty. No one stands behind him. Still, something feels off. He types back, asking what Lane means. Watching who? A screen flickers, then a reply appears. Playful message, with a smiling emoticon and a strange laugh. Lane tells him to look out the window. Woojin turns his head slowly. The window shows the sky outside, quiet at first. Then, in a flash, everything changes. A streak of lightning rips through the clouds, glowing like veins across the sky. The light floods the room, blinding for a second. The sound that follows is loud enough to shake the walls. Thunder crashes, so close it makes the floor tremble. In the next moment, the office disappears. His voice echoes in confusion. The room is gone. The screens are gone. His desk, his chair, the world he knows gone. Now he's somewhere else. He sees a man kneeling on the ground, coughing weakly. Dirt and blood cover his clothes. Another man stands over him, voice firm and full of warning. His tone cuts through the air like a blade. The message is clear. Deculein is not someone to be trusted. Dropping your guard is even worse. Deculein is the worst of the worst. A man who wears hesitation like a mask, only to strike the moment others relax. He acts unsure now, but anyone who lets their guard down around him is a fool. He hides his power and pretends to be weaker than he is. He lies through every breath and smiles through every betrayal. He's a polished monster in noble clothes. Scenario changes, and an angry female voice demands that Deculein get up. No room for laziness. No excuse to stay down. The voice drills into his head, insulting him, breaking him down. It questions his worth as a human being. Kim Woojin hears every word, but they get differently now, because the one being scolded isn't just a character, it's him. He has been living inside the body of Deculein von Grahan-Yukline for a few days now. At first, he thought it was a dream. He even tried to sleep again, hoping that closing his eyes would take him back to reality. But no matter how many times he wakes up, the truth doesn't change. He's stuck. The angry voice belongs to Uriel, Deculein's sister. She is furious beyond reason. Her eyes flash with rage, not just as a sibling, but as someone who sees disgrace where there should be pride. She shouts, loud enough to shake the walls, demanding he stop sulking over a woman. She sees him as a shame to the entire family. She hurls the stack of papers at him with more force than necessary. The sheets scatter across the floor, some sliding under the nearby furniture. Her face is red with anger, not just because of what he's doing now, but because of what he's become. Then she gives him a final warning, telling him to get up and show up for the professor position he once held with pride, or... Then she storms out, leaving behind a silence that feels heavier than her shouting. It has now been 1 full week since that strange lightning filled the sky and Woojin woke up in this twisted new reality. The world around him looks exactly like the one from his game. The design, the structure, the clothes, it all matches. But this is no simulation. You can feel everything. The pain, the pressure, the weight of being someone else. And not just anyone. He's become the worst character ever written into the story. a man everyone hates, a villain doomed to die no matter what he does, the coward in noble robes, the failure in the professor's chair, one and only Deculein. Woojin takes a moment to think back on everything that has happened in the past week. At first, the strange world around him felt like a dream. It was too strange, too sudden, and too unreal. But with each passing day, the sharp feeling of the cold floor beneath him, the weight of Deculein's clothes, and the heavy stare of others pushed one truth forward: this is not a dream. This is real. He is no longer Woojin, game developer. He is now Deculein von Grahan-Yukline, the most hated character in the very game he helped build. Deculein was never meant to be anything more than a mid-tier boss. He was designed to lose. Nearly every storyline in the game ended with his death. 999 out of 1,000 playthroughs dead. That's how useless and unwanted the character was. It didn't matter what path the player chose. Deculein always found a way to become a problem. He stood in the way, caused pain, and then dropped dead when his role was over. Woojin finds it hard not to laugh at the cruel joke of it all. Out of all the possible characters he could have become, he ends up stuck inside the skin of the most miserable one. The only thing even close to an advantage is Deculein's mana. His body holds a large reserve of magical energy. But Woojin doesn't know how fast it drains, how to control it properly, or what the limits are. That uncertainty makes everything worse. Having power without knowing how to use it is like holding a sword by the blade. He remembers the early stages of development. Deculein was never meant to survive. His entire purpose was to push the story forward by losing. He existed only so the main characters could rise. That thought sits like a stone in Woojin's chest. His eyes fall to the stack of papers Uriel threw at him earlier. The top sheet holds his title clearly: Professor Deculein, Imperial University. The paper is part of a lesson plan called Basic Understanding of Magic and Mindset Toward Mana. It sounds boring just by the title, but it's also his job now. Uriel von Grahan-Yukline is his half-sister. He reflects on her behavior earlier. She handed him the documents over without care, like tossing garbage onto the floor. Her attitude made their relationship clear, cold, distant, and full of disappointment. He remembers that she runs the Yukline household in his place, and from the look in her eyes, she would rather he stay gone. Woojin thinks about the woman Uriel mentioned during her angry rant. He guesses it must be Yuli. That name stings for more than one reason. The warning Uriel gave is still fresh in his mind. If he wants to keep this position as professor, then he has no choice. He has to act like Deculein. He has to get up, prepare, and will give that lecture. The word professor strikes something deep inside. Woojin has never stood in front of a classroom before, but this world isn't giving him time to doubt himself. He needs to learn everything he can, and quickly. Moreover, his system prompt had just appeared, laying out his most important goal for survival: to become someone the world could not do without. A secondary task had also popped up. He needed to deliver a lecture at the university. The reward for completing that small task was only 0.5 store currency, but in a place like this, even a tiny reward could be valuable. That goal, combined with Uriel's cold warning, pushed him to act. He is well aware of how fragile Deculein's life is. Death waits at nearly every corner. Many of those possible ends could even come from Uriel herself. She might be his sister, but trust in this family runs thin, and her eyes always seem to hold a quiet threat. The value of store currency doesn't slip past him. In this world, it could be the difference between survival and becoming just another forgotten boss. His mirrors about the lecture lessen a little when he remembers Deculein's unique trait, understanding. He had added that attribute himself. Woojin gave it to Deculein as a way to make him slightly more human, something for the players to connect with. Now, that same trait might help him survive. He dresses in Deculein's noble clothing, feeling the strange fabric wrap around his nude body. The clothes feel expensive, clean, and a bit too formal for someone who once wore the same hoodie for days at a time. The bathroom is large and spotless, nothing like the small one-bedroom apartment Woojin used to live in. Yet his movements are smooth and confident, as if this life had always belonged to him. The attributes of his body begin to show. Intimidation, dignity, and an impeccable sense of style, these are not things Woojin had in his old life. The way he stands, the way he talks, even the way he thinks, Deculein's identity begins to surface. It doesn't take over, but it blends into his actions. He catches himself following noble customs without even trying. There's still a clear goal: gather as much information as possible. But even with that in mind, the idea of standing in front of a class and teaching no longer feels impossible. Somehow, it feels like second nature. In this world, Deculein is a noble, a person of status, a man born into power. Woojin scoffs at the thought. He may be tall and decent-looking, but back in South Korea, he was just a regular guy. His own ex-girlfriend once described him as a lazy mess, a man full of excuses, not ambition. That version of him still exists beneath the fancy robes and expensive shoes. He reminds himself not to forget who he is. No matter how convincing this world becomes, he refuses to lose the core of his own identity. He steps into the car waiting for him. The comfort hits him right away. Soft leather, polished surfaces, a scent of wealth in the air, it's a level of luxury he has never experienced before. It reminds him of that guy his ex is dating now. The type who shows off his money like a badge. The thought still bothers him. Inside the car, a young man greets him nervously. The tone is respectful, and the title professor is used without hesitation. The man hands him a document, looking unsure but obedient. Woojin assumes he's some sort of assistant or secretary, someone who's used to following orders without question. Curious, Woojin asks if the young man is a wizard. The answer that comes is quick and polite. The man has been serving Deculein for 3 years. Woojin quickly sets this aside and shifts his attention to the document in his hands. At first, he expects to find lecture notes, maybe some rough points or a list of topics to discuss. Instead, what he finds is a complete script. Every word, every pause, even the flow of the lecture has been written out in detail from start to finish. It becomes clear right away, Deculein never prepared this himself. A man full of pride but lacking the real skill to back it up wouldn't bother with something so tedious. This must be the work of the young assistant. The boy probably handled everything behind the scenes while Deculein took all the credit like the pompous fraud he was designed to be. Woojin looks at the assistant and thanks him, telling him he did well. The boy nods politely and seems almost surprised by the kind words. Woojin then suggests he rest until they arrive. The response is obedient, calm, and practiced. But deep down, Woojin feels a strange discomfort. It creeps in slowly like a shadow he didn't notice until it wrapped around his chest. He wonders if this uneasiness is truly his, or if it's something bleeding in from Deculein's personality. Maybe this body, with all its rigid pride and noble filth, is starting to sink its claws into his mind. The driver speaks, snapping him out of his thoughts. They've arrived. Woojin steps out and takes in the scene. The Imperial University stands tall and proud. The place is massive, a shining symbol of power and knowledge. Every stone looks expensive. This is where Deculein works. This is the world he must now live in. Inside Rotio Hall, students wait, their eyes bright with curiosity and expectation. They whisper among themselves, voices low but excited. Some talk about how lucky they are to attend a lecture by the head professor. Others speak about Deculein's rare talent for spell interpretation and how he was once called a child genius. What a joke. The same people praising him now would probably stab him the moment he slipped. All that respect, built on lies and reputation. Woojin knows better than anyone how fake it all is. He walks to the front, standing tall in the role he now must play. He introduces himself formally, speaking with the kind of calm authority Deculein would be proud of. Some of the female students murmur softly, clearly taken in by his looks and intelligence. But among the crowd, one student burns with hate. Her thoughts are loud and bitter, sharper than a knife. She sees nothing admirable in him. To her, Deculein is not a respected professor. He is trash. The man responsible for destroying her father. The moment she sees him, she knows this is the enemy. The girl in the crowd, the one burning with quiet rage, is named Ephraim. 3 years ago, her world crumbled in a single cruel moment. Her father, Kagan, had dedicated his life to the study of spell interpretation. It wasn't just work for him, it was his life's passion. But everything he built was taken from him. His thesis, the result of countless years of research, was stolen. And the thief was no other than the so-called genius, praised across the empire, Deculein von Grahan-Yukline. People clapped for his brilliance. They celebrated his rise. But no one saw the blood behind his success. Ephraim's father, broken by betrayal and humiliation, took his own life. That tragedy tore through her like a storm. After his death, Ephraim lost everything. Her noble title, her family's home, their land, all gone. She was left behind with nothing but grief and hate. And she made a promise. One day, she would take back everything. She would not let her father's name be forgotten or his murderer go unpunished. Through pure determination, Ephraim clawed her way into the Royal University. It wasn't easy, not with the shadow of her ruined family hanging over her. But she didn't stop. She couldn't. Because this university wasn't just a school. It was a battlefield. And her target stood at the center of it, Deculein himself. She knew the truth. That fancy title of his, the lectures, the fame, it all sat on a stolen throne. His so-called skill in spell interpretation was nothing more than her father's stolen legacy. Every compliment he received, every round of applause was a lie. Her rage only grew with each smug step he took through those halls. Arrogant, entitled, and rotten to the core, Deculein had no right to be where he was. But Ephraim is not reckless. She keeps her hatred tucked away behind a mask of calm. Revenge requires patience, and she is willing to wait for the perfect time to strike. At the front of the lecture hall, Deculein begins his lesson. His voice carries power. Even a single word from him silences the room. He holds himself with the cold confidence of a man who believes he owns the space around him. He introduces himself again formally, this time focusing on his status. Head professor of the Magic Tower, a monarch mage, a rank that stands at the 4th tier among magic users. It's the kind of title that makes others sit up straighter. He then begins to explain the fundamentals of magic. His tone is steady, practiced, and firm. He breaks magic down into 2 parts, attributes and types. Most students already know this, but he goes over it anyway, setting the groundwork. Attributes are the roots, the origin of all magic. They include elements like fire or water, materials like metals or crystals, and objects that act as channels or conductors. The types of magic he lists include 9 categories: summoning, spirit, destruction, support, enchantment, manipulation, ductility, bewitchment, and harmony. To his surprise, the lecture goes far more smoothly than expected. Even though he's just reading from a script someone else prepared, the concepts begin to make perfect sense in his mind. The understanding attribute shows its true value. Each sentence feels clearer, each theory sharper. He doesn't just read, he gets it. The students listen closely. Their eyes follow his every move, not because he tries too hard, but because his presence demands it. The air around him carries weight. That usual arrogant attitude Deculein was known for doesn't feel forced now. Instead, it fits him naturally, like a perfectly tailored coat. He begins to wonder if, deep down, he might actually have what it takes to be a good teacher. He keeps the lecture flowing, now explaining how the way mana works depends on where it's stored. Mages use their head, knights draw from the heart, and those who balance both rely on a special inner core. It's basic, but important, and he presents it with ease. He adds a small lesson about focus being more important than natural talent. That line feels exactly like something Deculein would say, cold, practical, and just a little bit condescending. Still, Woojin knows the truth. He is not special. Not in the way the real prodigies are. His current mana level is 3,375. A proper name mage starts at 30,000. That difference is more than just a gap, it's a canyon. He reaches the end of the lecture and notices something strange. The last line of the script feels off, something the original Deculein would never say. Too soft, too humble. It doesn't match the sharpness of the rest. Still, he says it by asking if anyone has questions. Silence fills the room for a moment. Then, Ephraim stands up. She reports a strange discovery made the night before, an unusual spell found in the dormitory. She claims it might be connected to devil worship and then turns the spotlight on him. She asks him if he could help interpret that spell. She's clearly baiting him, using his stolen title as the genius spell interpreter against him. He doesn't take it lightly. He doesn't answer right away. Instead, he asks about her official status in the university's magic tower. Her pause gives him all the excuse he needs. He scolds her in front of the entire class. Not for the question, but for her behavior. She should have introduced herself formally before asking the question. He tells her that he wouldn't answer questions from a child who lacked basic manners. It's sharp, it's cruel, and it's exactly what someone like Deculein would say. He acknowledges the topic, but tells her it can't be addressed now. Not under these circumstances. Inside his mind, a quiet alert rings. The understanding attribute, for all its power, has drained a massive chunk of his mana during the lecture. It took 1,300 mana just to comprehend the lecture script. He wonders who knows how much mana it'll take on a spell he has never seen before. The cost of knowledge in this world isn't cheap, and he doesn't want to waste more points here. In the meantime, the classroom stirs with quiet laughter. Students lean toward one another, whispering behind their hands. Ephraim's bold move has turned into a failed spectacle. Her plan to challenge Deculein ends in embarrassment, and she knows it. Frustration burns in her chest, her eyes fixed ahead with cold determination. She refuses to let it go. Even after being dismissed, she pushes forward. She claims the university's magic tower is ignoring the strange spell, brushing it off as nonsense. To prove her point, she projects the spell in front of the class using magic, displaying it boldly. Her voice grows sharper. She demands an answer, putting the so-called genius spell interpreter in the spotlight once again. But inside, Deculein is tired. Woojin can feel it. His mana pool has dropped low. That last use of understanding had drained far more than expected. Still, there is no turning back now. Ephraim explains that the remaining first-year students tried to analyze the spell but failed. No one could figure it out. She asks for a hint, giving him one last chance to stumble. But he doesn't. He studies the spell and delivers a calm answer. It's barrier magic. More specifically, a type of bewitchment barrier. A trap disguised under something simple. The room falls quiet. His voice is clear, and his tone leaves no room for doubt. With a wave of the hand, he shuts the matter down. Just like that, it's over. A quiet notification appears. The The side quest completes. He earns 0.5 store currency. A while later, elsewhere in the university, Ephraim sits in the cafeteria, chewing her food with far more anger than hunger. Each bite feels like a silent curse. She had walked into that classroom with the intention of exposing a fraud, but instead she only ended up helping him. Her question made her look like a fool. Her lack of etiquette gave him the upper hand. And worst of all, he actually answered. Ephraim bites her lip and clenches her fists. She tells herself that there's no way he could have known. He must have been caught off guard during the lecture. His answer had to be a lucky guess, a desperate attempt to sound smart in front of the students. He called it an enchantment magic without hesitation. Her mind races through the basics. Enchantment magic is tricky. It always needs a medium, something to anchor the magic to. A tool, scroll, given an object. Without it, the spell can't exist. So how can it be enchantment magic when there was nothing? No medium, no anchor. She remembers clearly the circle she showed him was copied exactly from what appeared on the dormitory doors the night before. A strange, unfamiliar symbol that no one could explain. At first, it caused chaos, but now it's been tossed around as just some harmless puzzle for new students. A research topic, a novelty. She clenches her jaw, repeating it silently in her head. She knows he's full of crap, but before she can calm down, another student rushes over to her table, excitement all over her face. She calls Ephraim's name and nearly trips over herself in a rush to speak. The girl explains they've been analyzing the magic circle since that morning. And now it finally makes sense. It's a barrier spell. Once they reformulated the structure, everything clicked. Ephraim sits frozen. The student keeps talking, full of admiration. She says they had been too scared to ask Deculein anything. His sharp gaze and cold voice kept everyone at a distance. But Ephraim, she spoke up. She had guts. Ephraim blinks in confusion. None of this makes sense. She repeats the question, hoping she misheard. Was it really a barrier spell? The girl nods like it's the most obvious thing in the world. Then she gushes about how amazing Professor Deculein it is. How did he know it was enchantment-type magic without even having a medium? How could he possibly read something so confusing at a glance? Ephraim stares at her, saying nothing. Her thoughts spin in every direction. The student waves goodbye, thanking her and promising to include her name in the final report. Then she disappears into the crowd, still buzzing with excitement. Ephraim forces a smile, but inside it feels like something is dying. Her entire plan to humiliate him to reveal the truth behind his fake reputation has done the opposite. She tried to ruin him. Instead, she made him look even more brilliant. Now students are praising him more than ever. Her stomach turns. She looks at the lecture poster for the semester. Understanding elemental magic. Another chance for him to shine. Another stage built for a man who doesn't deserve it. Then a few words echo in her mind like a curse. Know your enemy and you will win. That wasn't just advice. That was a warning. This war is far from over. Ephraim doesn't care how smart he seems or how high his reputation rises. She will wait, plan, and strike again. One mistake is all it takes. Sooner or later, she'll prove it. He's not a genius. He's a thief in a crown. And thieves always fall. Deculein walks through the quiet halls of the university, the sound of his footsteps echoing against the stone walls. A strange feeling weighs on him. The earlier classroom confrontation with Ephraim could have gone terribly wrong. It was only by luck and a little help from the understanding attribute that he made it through without disaster. But that luck came at a cost. He now realizes that his attribute had triggered without warning the moment he looked at the spell. Just from observing the complex lines and symbols of the magic circle, a huge amount of mana had drained away. It hadn't even been a proper spellcast, only recognition. The cost of knowledge here is higher than he ever expected. Even if his mana reserve were doubled, he doubts he could have made sense of it without the attribute. That spell wasn't normal. It was dangerous, mysterious, and far beyond what a first-year student should be playing with. And yet, it fell into his lap uninvited. Turning a corner, he nearly bumps into someone. Long white hair. Pale eyes like frost. A knight's poise in every step. The woman standing in front of him is no stranger. She is Deculein von Grahan-Yukline. Her face is the same as he remembers from the game's development, one of the most admired knights in the Empire's future. Skilled. Brave. Bound to rise higher than anyone else in her class. And right now, she stands before him as his fiancée. The moment feels too sharp, too real. Woojin, inside Deculein, freezes for a second. This encounter wasn't in the plan. He doesn't know how to handle it. Their relationship in the game was mostly political, cold, arranged, and built more for show than for love. But now, standing in front of her in the real world, it feels different. He greets her briefly, keeping his tone stiff. She returns the greeting with a calm look, but her words are pointed. She brings up something from a week ago, a promise. One that he, now living in Deculein's body, has no memory of. He tries to act like it's nothing, says he doesn't remember. He even thinks about walking away from the conversation entirely, but she stops him. Her voice holds weight. She's not going to let him avoid the topic. She asks if he's running away again. His answer is clumsy. He tells her that he must have forgotten due to being ill for a while. He then shamelessly asks her if she mind reminding him what promise they made. Yuli doesn't get angry. Instead, she reminds him. Days before, she told him if he's willing to drop the act, if he can stand in front of everyone and admit his arrogance, admit that everything he's been showing is fake, then she will stay by his side, no matter what, even if the world falls apart. She then tells him that it was a mistake to trust him. She doesn't argue. She tells him to leave and simply turns and walks away, her back straight, her steps quiet. Still arrogant as ever, he replies then he will take his leave. She cannot believe it. She grits. His attitude is unbearable. The engagement between them had always been a deal, nothing more. A talented mage and a strong knight. Two noble families combining for power and status. It was useful, smart, expected. No one had reason to object. It made sense on paper. But paper doesn't feel. Paper doesn't bleed. There was never love in this match. Only names, reputation, and the cold smile of politics. The truth eventually came out. Both noble families, the Yuklines and the Freydens, began to see through the fake image. Deculein, the man who once bragged about his unmatched spell analysis skills, turned out to be a complete fraud. His so-called talent didn't exist. All his achievements had been built on lies. He had climbed the ladder of success using empty words and fake titles. The position of professor, one of the highest in the university, had been earned not through merit, but through manipulation. He called himself a genius, but when the time came to prove it, there was nothing. After one public incident where his failure became too obvious, his so-called brilliance disappeared completely. No more results, no more breakthroughs, just silence. The once praised prodigy became a disappointment no one wanted to talk about. Though families tried to cover it up, they didn't want the scandal to ruin their names. It wasn't about justice or truth. It was about pride, keeping their reputations clean and untouchable, a mess hidden behind fine curtains. Yuli, however, wasn't the type to overlook dishonesty. She could live without love. That wasn't what bothered her. But lies, deception, that crossed a line. Her values came from her knightly vows, discipline, truth, and honor. She had made a deal with Deculein and he agreed, but deep down she knew he wouldn't keep his end. And so she decided she wouldn't either. Deculein continues walking across the campus, now heading toward the Magic Tower, the most respected department at the Empire's most elite university. In this world, it holds the same kind of weight as the medical department at Seoul National University. The tower itself is like the university's hospital, a place where only the best belong. The path there is beautiful. Neatly arranged trees, clean stone paths, and wide lawns stretch across the grounds. The buildings rise tall and proud, giving off the feeling of a top-tier American college campus. He slows down for a moment to take it in. This is the world he helped build. He remembers the long nights he and his team spent designing every detail. The sleepless hours, the endless debates over architecture and color schemes. And now he walks through it in someone else's body. It feels strange, both bitter and sweet at the same time. His thoughts are broken by a sudden bump. A young man crashes into him, clearly in a rush. The student stumbles back and quickly apologizes, explaining that he was in a hurry to meet him. He seems nervous, eyes darting up in panic. Deculein studies him for a second and realizes this is the same student who delivered the lecture script earlier. He thought he was being ambushed. He squints and takes a guess at his name. But he gets it completely wrong. The student corrects him, saying his name is Alan, not Zoro. Deculein brushes off the mistake, saying he mixed up the names. Alan doesn't argue. He just sighs and says okay, but inside the boy is clearly judging him. The names don't sound anything alike. Still, he keeps it to himself. There's no winning in correcting someone like Deculein too directly. Later, in Deculein's office, the mood shifts to work. Alan stands by the desk, holding out a list. These are the sponsorship forms for new mages, young talent hoping to join the university's research programs. Just like labs back in the real world, the Magic Tower needs money to function. Nothing moves without funding, and professors are expected to pick their favorites and support them financially. Deculein scans the list carefully. One name on the page glows faintly in gold. That glow is not from magic, it's from a special attribute tied to the body he now lives in. The attribute is called Wealthy Magnate. It's rare and works together with his enhanced vision, letting him see which people or investments might bring big returns. The golden name isn't glowing without reason. It signals potential, profit, a future that might pay off. Several other names carry a faint shimmer too, but one outshines the rest. Ephraim Luna, she is more than just a student. She is one of the main characters in the game. Her story matters, and her fate is tangled up with his in all the worst ways. Deculein knows the truth. One of the developers working on her character hated him. That person had written her backstory to include a tragic twist, her father driven to death by Deculein's actions. That kind of story isn't easy to erase. Everyone sees her as his enemy, and because of that, no one dares to sponsor her. People are afraid. They worry that if they support Ephraim, Deculein will retaliate. No one wants to cross someone like him, so she stands alone, ignored by the very system meant to support talent. If things continue like this, the story will unfold just like it did in the original game. The engagement gets cancelled, Ephraim rises, and Deculein dies. The story wants him dead. The villains, the events, the entire game's fate, they're all pushing him toward a bad end. His death isn't just a risk, it's practically scheduled. A sword in the chest. A magic blast to the head. A quiet sip of poisoned wine. A bomb planted under his seat. The possibilities are endless. But one truth stays the same: he won't make it if he plays by the old rules. The original Deculein would never have helped Ephraim. He would have ignored her, maybe even tried to block her progress out of pride. But Woojin is not that man, and he doesn't plan to die like one either. He grabs a pen and begins to write. New instructions form in his mind. He tells Alan to submit the sponsorship documents and to collect some books from the library. Research needs to start now. There's no time to wait. Alan nods and leaves, still probably wondering what's going on. Deculein, this cold, proud professor, is making choices no one expects. And that's exactly the point. Deculein sits with one clear thought: money is survival. In this world filled with enemies and hidden traps, wealth isn't just power. It's protection. With enough money, he can dodge death, buy safety, and build influence. Investing in a young mage like Ephraim is a start, but it's not enough. That alone won't save him. This body, Deculein von Grahan-Yukline, isn't built to win. In the game, he was nothing more than a mid-level boss. A roadblock. His job was to lose, to die in some dramatic way that made the main characters look good. And those same characters are now walking around, breathing, and very capable of killing him without a second thought. He looks at the long road ahead and knows he needs a new path. A real plan. Natural talent he has almost none. In a world where monsters and heroes are everywhere, Deculein is painfully average. His magic isn't impressive. His combat skills are weak. He isn't even well-liked. Most people want him dead just because it would make things easier. But there's one thing he does have: his attributes. These special traits, hidden beneath the surface, are the keys to rewriting his fate. He may not be able to use all four elements like the strongest mages, but he has potential in earth and fire. And when combined with his ability to manipulate objects, a powerful trait unlocks: Midas Touch. This rare attribute is no joke. It consumes mana to bring out the hidden potential in others. Not just magic, value, power, opportunity. He can turn something ordinary into something priceless if he learns to control it. His metal affinity also gives him access to telekinetic control. That means he can move weapons without touching them: floating blades, mental attacks. A skill often ignored in this world, even though it's incredibly useful. People overlook it because it's not flashy. But Deculein sees it for what it is: a way to fight without brute strength. To make all of this work, he must master manipulation. And that starts small. Very small. He opens the book about basic telekinesis he got. He focuses on it and channels his mana. The moment he connects, information rushes into his head. Everything about basic telekinesis becomes clear. Techniques, control, balance, it all fits into place. Then, without even trying too hard, he lifts a nearby paintbrush into the air. Smooth, steady, controlled. That's when he realizes something important. The spell is now burned into his memory. He doesn't need to cast it again. It's part of him now. In the past, this kind of thing only happened on a screen, through clicks and text boxes. But now it's real. The game isn't just being played anymore. He's living it. Deculein stares at the levitating paintbrush. The success feels good, but it also reminds him of how far he still has to go. Telekinesis may be strong, but not strong enough. Not when death can come from every direction. He needs more than tricks. He needs real power. A wild idea forms in his mind. What if he didn't just use magic in the air, but on himself? In this world, the size of a magic circle matters. The larger it is, the more powerful it becomes. Most people use one in the brain, some in the heart. But what if he covered his entire body in them? Every inch of skin, from mind to chest to inner core. It sounds mad, but madness might be his only way out. Thanks to the understanding attribute, he quickly grasps the risks. Overloading his body could lead to serious damage. Mana imbalance, nerve collapse, permanent injury, maybe even death. But Deculein is not made of glass. He carries another powerful attribute: Iron Body. This trait gives his body a higher resistance to magical stress and physical pain. A normal person would fall apart under this kind of experiment. But not him. At least, That's what he hopes. His mana level right now is 800. Low, but enough to try once. He prepares himself for the pain, and then he does it. The spell activates. It burns through him like wildfire. His bones feel like they're shattering. His muscles scream. His veins feel like molten iron is flowing through them. The pain is worse than anything he imagined, but he doesn't break. He doesn't cry out. He holds on. Eventually, the pain fades. He collapses, drained completely. His mana drops to just 1. From over 800 down to almost nothing. But when he looks at his shoulder, he sees the reward. A magic circle has formed, real and complete. He estimates the process will take about 2 weeks to finish. If he can endure this every day, soon his body will be covered in magic circles. That will change everything. Time passes. A full month goes by since the first seminar. Today marks the beginning of his formal lecture at the university's magic tower. Students gather in anticipation. The air is filled with whispers, rumors, and guesses. Upperclassmen have already begun talking. Stories about the new professor have spread fast. No one knows exactly what to expect. Some wonder if all his classes will be like this, strange, intense, and unpredictable. The first task he gives is simple, at least on the surface. Students are told to head to areas rich with elemental energy and study are using special signboards. It's an unusual start, but nothing about Deculein is ever normal. The students stand scattered across the training field, left alone with no sign of their professor. No guidance, no instructions, just confusion hanging in the air like fog. They wait unsure, beginning to wonder if they've been abandoned. Ephraim, standing among them, mutters to herself in frustration. She finds it completely irresponsible. Deculein gives them a strange task and then vanishes without a trace. It feels like a joke. A typical move from someone who acts like he's too important to deal with students. In the middle of her thoughts, someone bumps into her. The hit is light but sudden, and she spins around, startled. She's ready to scold whoever it is, but her words catch in her throat. This girl is none other than Sylvia von Iliad. The moment is jarring. Ephraim recognizes her instantly, but Sylvia doesn't even look her way. She walks off, acting like Ephraim isn't even there. Not a single glance, not a single word. Ephraim watches in disbelief. The coldness cuts deeper than she expects. It's not just rude, it feels personal. The idea that Sylvia might not recognize her is almost worse than open hostility. Still reeling, Ephraim gathers her focus. She lifts her hand and builds a structure of rock and ice using her magic. It's a smooth process, precise and controlled. But her mind is far from calm. The memory returns, sharp, bitter, and unwanted. 10 years ago, House Iliad had surrounded her home. They feared her father's research and her potential. They came out with kindness, but with threats. They wanted control. They wanted silence. That event changed everything. And now one of them stands here, acting like none of it happened. Ephraim tries to understand. Is Sylvia really not remembers? Or is she pretending? Then things shift again. Sylvia begins drawing a mana from the surrounding area. Not just from the air, but directly from the elemental energy Ephraim had spent time gathering. Bit by bit, it disappears, stolen right under her nose. Ephraim stares, stunned. Sylvia behaves like they've never met, but clearly holds something against her. Ephraim snaps. She points at Sylvia, furious. She calls her out for stealing mana, trying to push her aside, and using magic to force her to drop her gathering tools. The words come sharp and fast. All the frustration from the last few minutes spills out at once. But Sylvia just stands there, confused. Her face shows no guilt, no shame, only confusion, as if Ephraim is speaking in a foreign language. Then she speaks. She says she doesn't even know who Ephraim is. But she does know her father, the man who once held a noble title, now nothing more than a name on a grave. What follows is worse. Sylvia doesn't just mention him, she mocks him. She drags his name through the dirt, speaks of him like he was nothing, like his death was deserved. The words cut deep. Ephraim's anger boils over. Her fingers twitch with magic. She refuses to let this go. Her father wasn't perfect, but he didn't deserve this kind of insult. Not from someone like Sylvia, someone who hides behind a famous name and uses her magic like a weapon. She decides to stop holding back. Her mana rises. The air around her shifts. Anyone nearby can feel the tension building. Other students watch in shock and surprise. They want to stop things before they get worse, but they pick the wrong time. Ephraim turns towards Sylvia like a storm. Her voice is full of rage. She demands Sylvia to repeat her words. The magic around her pulses with color, bright, hot, and wild. Green energy shoots out, fast and hard. And then it gets worse. She launches the energy blast towards Sylvia. Sylvia realizes too late that she has messed up. Her sharp words, her arrogance, her recklessness, it all adds up to this disaster. Somehow, she forces out a yellow energy barrier, barely managing to shield herself from the chaos she helped create. The trading field becomes a war zone. Their energies collide and explosion rocks the area. Fire tears through the sky. Debris flies in all directions, crashing into the ground and the walls. Two more students are caught in the blast, their bodies thrown like ragdolls. Smoke rises. In the middle of all this destruction stands Ephraim. Her chest heaves with every breath. Her hands are still glowing faintly with the remnants of her magic. Her eyes, once quiet and soft, now blaze with fury. This is not the Ephraim who waited her turn or held her tongue. This is someone who has had enough. She refuses to bow her head to Sylvia or any other spoiled noble who thinks their last name gives them the right to crush others. She will not be pushed into the shadows. Not anymore. Around them, the remaining students begin to gather. Some rush to help the injured. Others try to understand what just happened. Confusion spreads quickly. Questions bounce around what caused the explosion. Who started it? Are they safe? Ephraim doesn't hold back. Her voice slices through the noise. She shouts at Sylvia, pointing straight at her. She accuses her of insulting her father's name, of threatening her family long ago, and of invading their territory with nothing but fear and pride. But Sylvia's attention is elsewhere now. Her eyes widen as she stares at something unnatural. A dark light begins to pulse between them. It doesn't glow, it consumes. It looks like a hole in reality itself. A void swallowing mana, air, and sound. The students around them step back in fear. They've seen this kind of phenomenon before. It's dangerous, wild, unpredictable. The kind of energy that doesn't care who you are, it destroys everything in its path. This dark void is formed from the clashing of Sylvia's and Ephraim's mana. The ground begins to shake. Magic pulls inward like a black tide. Warnings break out. Shouts echo through the field. People scream about an explosion. The magic is about to break. The metal will become shrapnel. Ephraim watches in stunned silence. She feels the force pulling at her body, her energy, her breath. Then everything stops. No sound. No wind. The chaos freezes midair. The void shrinks into nothing. Above them hovers Deculein. The blades float around him like a quiet warning, sharp and precise. Each fragment of metal is held perfectly still, caught mid-flight. The explosion is no longer a threat. He has neutralized it without saying a word. The professor has finally arrived, and he did it with more control than either of them could imagine. The trading field falls completely silent. Every eye turns toward Deculein, standing there, calm and composed like some figure out of legend. His magic doesn't just stop the chaos, it turns it into something breathtaking. The frozen shards of metal, once deadly, now form a perfect structure, suspended in space like an artwork made of blades. It's more than powerful, it's beautiful. The students stare in awe. Their earlier fear turns into fascination. Whispers pass between them. They recognize the spell as enchantment magic, difficult, advanced, and almost impossible to control at this level, but Deculein controls it like it's nothing. He ends the lecture with calm authority. His words cut through the silence, and no one dares to argue. Everyone, except the ones directly involved, is ordered to leave. Ephraim feels her stomach drop. The weight of what just happened crushes down on her. The fire in her chest has gone cold. She stands still, realizing how serious this has become. Magic clashes, injuries, a near disaster, and all of it linked to her. She already knows what's coming next, a disciplinary meeting, and she dreads it. The scene shifts to a colder place, a small, strict room. No windows, no smiles, just pressure. Deculein von Grahan-Yukline is there, and he is not alone. He is accompanied by Chairwoman Adeline Cizelian, the one holding power over academic justice in the tower. Her face is unreadable. Two professors, Rilin and Retlin, also arrive there. Ephraim is sitting in the hall below in silence, and with her is Sylvia. Both of them were accused of causing havoc earlier. Chairwoman Adeline Cizelian starts the proceeding. Ephraim is accused of attacking a member of House Iliad and worse, of being a commoner who somehow entered the academy without official approval. The accusation cuts deep, not because it's true, but because of how easily it is spoken, as if Ephraim doesn't belong here at all. Professors then praise Deculein. They compliment his magical skill, call his frozen display of blades impressive, and if he wasn't present there would be casualties. But Deculein sees right through it. This isn't admiration, it's politics. The outcome of this meeting has already been decided. It doesn't matter who was right. Sylvia is from House Iliad, a powerful, rich, and deeply connected noble family. Ephraim is not. In a game of status, Sylvia wins before the first word is spoken. Deculein understands this. He has played this world's game long enough to know when the board is rigged, and right now it is. If he wants to protect his place and maybe even live through this cursed story, he has to twist the situation in his favor. He has no choice. Professor Relin scolds them both for letting things escalate. His voice is cold and flat, saying someone could have died if Deculein hadn't intervened. It's a reminder of how close things came to disaster. He asks Ephraim what led her to attack Sylvia in a cold tone. Ephraim sits quietly. She doesn't respond if she can't. The truth about her family, her father, and her rage, none of it can be spoken here. Not in this room. Not in front of Deculein. She knows he's watching her. She can feel his gaze, and she can't tell if he sees a student or a threat. The meeting grows colder. The professors begin to circle around Ephraim like vultures, picking apart her every action. Their voices carry a mocking tone full of fake concern but dripping with judgment. They speak of her like she's nothing more than a hot-tempered commoner trying too hard to stand out. They call it inferiority complex, twisting her silence into something shameful. Ephraim keeps her eyes down. Her fists clench in her lap. Every word from them makes her feel smaller. Sylvia sits with calm confidence, delivering her side of the story without effort. She claims the whole mess started because her work was accidentally destroyed during class. She says it so smoothly, so gently, like she's the real victim. The professors don't question her. They nod, agreeing too quickly. One of them even goes further. He calls out Ephraim directly, saying she has anger issues, that she's a danger to her peers, that this kind of behavior deserves punishment. He even brings up expulsion, like it's already decided. Not because she's wrong, but because she doesn't have the right name. Ephraim feels completely alone. No one in that room is on her side. No one listens. The walls feel too close, the air too tight. She sits there, insulted, blamed, dismissed. In that moment, she realizes there is no one left to protect her. Her thoughts turn bitter. She blames Deculein. If not for him, none of this would have happened. Chairwoman Adeline looks around the room and speaks in her usual composed voice. She says that it seems like the opinions in the room are starting to come together. Then, just before ending the meeting, she asks for one final opinion. She turns to Deculein, pointing out that he was there when the incident happened. Ephraim's heart sinks. She feels like this is it. This is where everything crashes down. Her future at the tower, her studies, her father's name, everything feels like it's hanging by a thread. And Deculein's about to cut it. But then something happens that no one expects. Deculein speaks. His voice rings through the room, strong and firm. But instead of turning to Ephraim, he looks straight at Sylvia. Everyone freezes. He doesn't address the so-called commoner. He doesn't repeat the blame that's already been tossed around the room. He questions Sylvia, the same noble girl who had been praised, protected, and treated like royalty since the beginning of the meeting. The air shifts immediately. Students, professors, everyone is shocked. Even Sylvia doesn't know what to say. Her confident expression begins to fade. Her mouth opens slightly in disbelief. Then Deculein repeats himself, sharper this time. He asks her again, can she truly say she's innocent? Is she sure without a doubt that she did nothing wrong? Ephraim doesn't understand. She sits frozen, confused, staring at him. Her mind spins. Why is he doing this? Why is he turning the focus on Sylvia? Professor Relin stammers, clearly caught off guard. His voice trembles as he tries to understand Deculein's meaning. The situation is slipping out of his control. Deculein doesn't stop. He challenges Sylvia directly. He tells her she had the power to stop the situation, but she chose not to. He points out that everyone expected great things from her, so is this all she's capable of? The words hit hard. Sylvia lowers her head. The proud daughter of House Iliad suddenly looks small. She finally speaks. Her voice is quiet, filled with shame. She admits the truth. She didn't stop the chaos because she wanted Ephraim to be punished more harshly. A noble who let someone suffer just to feel superior. So much for grace. Ephraim can barely believe what she's hearing. Sylvia, who stood untouchable just moments ago, has now confessed to manipulating the situation for her own benefit. But even more confusing is Deculein. Why is he doing this? Ephraim turns the thought over in her mind. She doesn't understand. Out of everyone here, she's the one who lost control. She caused the most damage. In her eyes, she's clearly at fault. So why isn't she the one being questioned? Why is the villain defending her? Professor Relin, still shaken, tries to bring the blame back to where he believes it belongs. He insists that in every situation, it's the aggressor who must be punished, not the one defending themselves. He stutters through his argument, clearly uncomfortable with how the meeting has shifted, but Deculein doesn't flinch. He responds without hesitation, cold and direct. If that is the logic they want to use, then the fault lies with him. He was the one who arranged the lecture that day. He was the one who gave the assignment. So if someone has to be blamed, let it be him. Relin, of course, quickly backs down. No one in the tower wants to point a finger at Deculein, not even those who have supported Sylvia from the start. But something in Relin's expression changes. His usual smugness fades into quiet thought. You can't ignore how Deculein's defense, oddly enough, feels fair. Ephraim watches it all unfold in disbelief. He's challenging the very professor who has been shielding Sylvia. He's flipping the whole conversation and somehow doing it with confidence. For the first time in this awful room, Ephraim feels something other than fear. She feels seen. A small flicker of hope stirs in her chest. She doesn't understand his reasons, but she can't deny it anymore. Deculein is standing up for her. She keeps her eyes on him, thoughts racing. This doesn't make sense. He should be trying to get rid of her. That's what the Deculein she knows would do. He's the villain, the arrogant, cold noble, the man who crushed people like her without hesitation. So why? Why go this far? Chairwoman Adeline speaks again, her voice cutting through the heavy silence. She announces the final decision. There will be no punishments, no expulsions. This fight, full of mistakes and danger, will be written off as a clash between two first-year students. Ephraim doesn't move. Her hands tremble slightly as she clenches her fist. She can barely believe it. She had prepared herself for the worst. Her mind had already accepted the idea of being thrown out. She was sure Deculein would make an example of her, but he didn't. The meeting ends and people begin to leave. Conversations return. Footsteps echo across the hall. Relin walks beside Deculein, now changing his tone completely. He praises him, calls him sharp, thoughtful, claims Deculein only acted for the good of the students. The same man who moments ago wanted Ephraim gone is now bowing his head with empty compliments. Ephraim stays behind for a moment, her heart pounding. Then she calls out. From the lower end of the hallway, she raises her voice and asks to speak with him. Just one question. She watches him turn to face her. Inside her mind, questions scream. Does he remember the name Luna? Does he know who her father was? The man who spent his whole life drowning in sorrow after being ruined by Deculein. The man who gave everything to spell interpretation, only to be forgotten, betrayed, and destroyed. Does he know, or does he not care? Being a master of timing, Deculein is already prepared. He expects her to reach out. This girl, Ephraim, isn't the type to walk away quietly. She needs answers, and she's not going to leave until she gets them. She watches him carefully, waiting for his reaction. In her mind, the worst-case scenario starts to unfold. She wonders what if Deculein decides to twist the situation again. What if he flips the verdict, defends himself, and throws her under the bus just to save face? That would be cruel, but not surprising. Her fear grows deeper. She wonders if this man even remembers her father. If he doesn't, that would be worse than hatred. That would mean everything her father went through, his pain, his downfall, his death, wasn't even worth remembering to the man who caused it. But Deculein doesn't react the way she expects. Instead, his words carry something unexpected. He tells her to stop chasing the past. He tells her not to let old pain block her future. Then he leaves, calm and unbothered. Ephraim stands still, trying to make sense of it. In her heart, a new thought begins to grow. He must remember. If he didn't, why would he help her? Why take her side in a room full of nobles who want her gone? Maybe, just maybe, he feels responsible. Maybe some part of him regrets what happened. The idea feels strange, unbelievable, but comforting. She misunderstands his help as pity, but for her, that's enough. Knowing he remembers, knowing he didn't forget the man he once crushed is enough to make her feel seen. Not forgiven, not accepted, but acknowledged. And for someone like her, acknowledgement is rare. The system recognizes the shift. Her case has changed something. 2 points are added to Deculein's death prevention score. The villain lives another day. Sylvia is riding home in silence beside her father, the head of House Iliad. She explains everything what happened at the academy, the clash with Ephraim, and how things nearly spiraled out of control. Her father, Yothian, listens with the cold patience of someone who already decided what matters. He is an Esper mage, powerful and prideful, and he only sees the world through outcomes. In his eyes, Ephraim Luna no longer matters. He believes she lost her chance a decade ago. The memory returns, vivid as ever. During the aptitude exam, both girls had shown signs of greatness. They hadn't even spoken back then, just stare at each other, unaware of the meaning behind the strange readings. But the manometer, the tool used to measure magical potential, had gone berserk. It predicted something almost impossible: 2 future archmages. The title of archmage is not handed out lightly. It's a level of power beyond royal favor or political influence. Emperors cannot touch those who reach it. Their names are burned into history. They become legends. In every era, only 3 people are sent to reach that level. No matter what type of magic they use, that rule has never changed. Right now, only one name is confirmed: Demerkin. Another candidate, Chairwoman Adeline of the Magic Tower, is close to reaching it. That leaves one final spot, the final throne. And both the Luna and Iliad families once stood across from each other for it. Now the competition has returned. Old wounds reopen. Yothian never forgot. He had always wanted that title for his daughter. no matter what. So much that he crushed the Luna family in advance. He forced Ephraim's father into silence, used power to block her path, and made sure Sylvia would have no real rival. It was never a fair fight. Sylvia knows this. She knows her family's actions were extreme. But she also knows it was not just ambition. It was her fate. Her father believes it. Her family expects it. And deep down, she believes it too. Becoming an archmage is not just a dream for her. It's a throne built on someone else's suffering. And she intends to claim it. That's why Ephraim's words hit Sylvia harder than she expected. Even though she tries to play it off, blaming luck or timing, the truth stings too deep. Somewhere beneath her pride, she knows it's not just bad luck, it's guilt. Gilthian, however, doesn't lose sleep over Ephraim. His attention is locked on someone else. Professor Deculein. To him, Deculein is a puzzle. He brushes it off at first, calling him an average man who only showed genius in his youth. But the concern is there, men like that are dangerous. If they rise again, they do it fast and quietly. The dark horse is always the one no one sees coming. Sylvia already knows what her father fears. She saw it with her own eyes. The explosion at the academy was messy, loud, unforgivable. On the surface, she erased Ephraim's mana. But beneath that chaos, she planted something deeper, a trap designed to turn the clash into a catastrophe. A trick that would unleash the void and make Ephraim look like the villain. It was a clever move, precise, hidden. And yet, Deculein saw it all. He gave her a look that froze her in place. It wasn't anger. It was understanding. He knew exactly what she had done, even though she took every step to keep it unnoticed. No words were spoken, but his message was clear. He had seen through her plan from the very start, but instead of exposing them, he offered a different path. A third option. One that didn't end in disaster. One that kept both of them alive and intact. It wasn't kindness, it was control. A silent demand for them to follow his script, to play their roles in the story he was writing. Sylvia underestimated him. She thought she could stay 3 steps ahead. She thought her plan was flawless. But Deculein didn't just survive the explosion, he took charge of it. And now she's left wondering what kind of man he truly is. Behind the cold voice, the perfect posture, and the noble arrogance is something else hiding. Something much more dangerous. A few quiet days pass, and now it's time to see how the so-called villain actually lives. And it's not modest. Deculein's mansion is massive, more like a palace than a house. Expensive taste is everywhere. Marble floors, gold-lined doors, and furniture that probably costs more than most nobles' entire estates. This man is out here living like Bruce Wayne in a world of mana and magic. Drip included, his outfit alone could bankrupt 3 smaller families. Inside his carriage, driven by his loyal servant, Deculein reflects on recent events. Supporting Ephraim in that disciplinary meeting wasn't out of kindness. It was a strategy. That decision erased one of his many death flags and added another half-point to his store currency, a win all around. He didn't expect Ephraim to reveal herself so early, especially not with so much hostility. From their first interaction, her glare said it all. She had a grudge, and it wasn't subtle. Still, his decision to protect her put him directly at odds with Sylvia. Now he's earned her hatred too. But the math checks out. That was still the best move. Let the noble girl sulk. He's not in this world to win popularity contests. He has bigger problems, like store currency. Deculein still needs at least 5 full points to unlock the store. Until then, his options are limited. Every opportunity to earn currency is gold, even annoying side quests. That's why he's attending the Flower of the New Year event, a noble gathering he'd rather skip. But the reward for going is another half point, and he's not about to leave that on the table. The moment he arrives, nobles gather in greeting. They show the usual fake respect, with smiles that don't reach their eyes and laughter that sounds like it was rehearsed. Expensive drinks, sparkling clothes, empty words. Every corner of the room stinks of status games. But this is the perfect place to interact with named characters. Among the crowd, one figure stands out, someone familiar. A helm. A character Woojin himself designed back in the development phase. Seeing him in person now feels strange but also useful. Then, out of nowhere, an older man approaches. He shouts Deculein's name across the room like they're long-lost friends. The sound cuts through the music, the talking, everything. Everyone turns, especially the ladies. Now all eyes are on him. Deculein feels the weight of 100 gazes. That calm and collected confidence he had before walking in is gone. Just like that. So much for keeping a low profile. Just then, Deculein catches a name he cannot ignore, Ganesha. The sound comes from somewhere deep in the crowd. He immediately tunes out the person in front of him. This is too important to miss. Ganesha isn't just some random adventurer. She's a powerhouse. 5th strongest character introduced in the entire story. Missing a chance to interact with her would be like dropping a winning lottery ticket down the drain. In a world full of backstabbers and deathroats, characters like her are priceless. Deculein starts scanning the room with sharp focus, pulling apart the noise and faces like he's peeling layers off an illusion. But no sign of her. His mood tightens. Every second counts, and something shifts, a feeling. He turns slightly, and of course, she's standing on the upper level behind him. Scarlet hair, piercing eyes, Ganesha is watching the party below like a queen over her battlefield. Cold, quiet, and absolutely lethal. That's her reputation. And she lives up to it just by standing there. Deculein quickens his pace, already calculating the best way to spark a meaningful interaction. One that earns points, one that flips future events in his favor. Then disaster strikes. Right on cue, the walking migraine named Ihelm blocks his path. This guy, an exclusive mage of the royal palace, matched in rank with Deculein as a monarch. But rank doesn't equal class. Helm's got the attitude of a stray dog and the timing of a curse alarm clock. He starts talking, loudly, casually, rudely. He makes it sound like Deculein should be honored just to be remembered by him. Then he throws shade about Deculein's research, saying it's been stuck in the mud for years. Says people are starting to question if the brilliant professor was ever that brilliant to begin with. Bold words for a glorified mage with nothing but jealousy in his veins. The two used to be close back in university. But once Deculein earned the seat of head professor, Ihelm's ego cracked. Since then, he's been trying to catch up and failing beautifully. Most people would snap at someone like this, but not our guy. Deculein doesn't even blink, cool as ice. He listens, doesn't argue, doesn't react. Because every word Elm says is old news. The rumors he spreads are all rooted in truth anyway. And Deculein is fine with that. He's not here to please people. He's here to win. Then the real pain hits. He glances back at the upper level. Ganesha is gone. She disappeared in the time it took Ihelm to finish his rant. One golden opportunity ruined by one loud-mouthed, insecure waste of a mana license. Deculein doesn't bother hiding his frustration. He walks right past the idiot and mutters under his breath. Calls him what he is, a piece of rotten cheese. And honestly, he's being generous. Ihelm stands there, stunned like someone just unplugged his brain. He doesn't get a response, only silence and the sight of Deculein walking away without so much as a glance back. That calm professor doesn't waste words on people who bark louder than they think. Right now, Deculein has more important things to handle. He needs to find Ganesha before she vanishes from the venue. The event is still loud, filled with clinking glasses and fake laughter, but his mind is locked in on one goal. This was supposed to be a key interaction, one moment to gain progress, but thanks to Ihelm's endless yapping, the plan is hanging by a thread. The nobles start to whisper. They are confused by Deculein's sudden exit from the spotlight. He was just the center of attention, and now he's vanished like smoke. Their curiosity builds, but he doesn't care. Let them wonder. Deep inside, he still wants to turn back and silence Ihelm forever. One fireball to the face. That would fix a lot of things. But this isn't the place. Not yet. He reaches the balcony in search of Ganesha. Then the unexpected happens. Ganesha speaks. Her voice comes from right next to him. She's already there. Deculein turns and sees her, scarlet hair, calm face, sharp gaze. She looks down at him with an amused expression, like she knew this would happen all along. She teases him gently, suggesting that maybe he came looking for her. And she's right. He did. He just didn't expect her to find him first. Her casual, confident tone makes him pause. She feels familiar, and it triggers something. A strange sense that their story already began somewhere before this night. Her smirk confirms it. They've met. This isn't their first time. Deculein tries to cover it up, gives a fake reason for why he's here. But she sees through it instantly. She laughs, light but sharp, and calls him out without mercy. Then the conversation shifts. Ganesha apologizes twice. The first is for what happened during an earlier mission. She says she messed it up. The second apology comes when she admits that she refused to hand over a child to Deculein despite the plan they were supposed to follow. Now it's clear. They had worked together before, probably under a commission or contract. Their target had been a young, gifted child. Ganesha was supposed to deliver the child to Deculein. But she didn't. She got attached. She made a choice. A human one. And she ruined the mission. Standing in Deculein's body, Woojin puts the pieces together quickly. The original Deculein didn't care about training or mentorship. He just wanted someone else to do his magical research. He was going to use that child like a tool and keep all the credit for himself. Typical Deculein. Too proud to do the work, too desperate to lose the spotlight. Now Woojin knows exactly what kind of mess he's cleaning up. Ganesha tilts her head slightly and asks something unusual, not rude, not aggressive, but careful. Her voice is calm, but her question cuts deep. She wants to know how long he plans to keep pretending. How long will he keep playing the same cruel, arrogant role? Her words hit like a soft hammer, quiet but impossible to ignore. It forces Deculein into reflection. Back then, before Woojin took over this body, the original Deculein was a disaster in motion. He used people like stepping stones. He picked fights with the powerful and crushed the weak. He hurt others just to polish his image. His fame meant more than their lives. His mask was pride, and beneath it, there was only poison. But now things are different. This version of Deculein with Woojin inside has made a choice. He says it out loud. He plans to live differently. No more meaningless cruelty. No more glory built on someone else's bones. Ganesha is caught off guard. She had been ready for a fight, ready to duck a fireball or break a limb if needed. With her record, it wouldn't be hard. After all, this woman isn't just powerful, she's terrifying. She holds two monstrous attributes, invincible body and master of martial arts. A combo like that isn't just strong, it's absurd. It means she can crush nearly anyone in this world without breaking a sweat. Punch through stone, dodge spells, shrug off damage like it's a breeze. She's one of the few adventurers to max out her physical stats, and she uses that strength like a hammer on glass. Woojin takes a second to reflect. If the old Deculein really wanted her gone, he would never have lifted a finger. That man believed in luxury executions. Hire someone else, make it look like an accident, and sip wine. But clearly that never happened. Probably because even hired killers wouldn't want to mess with someone like Ganesha. She turned them into art pieces and hanged them on her wall. Lost in his thoughts, Woojin doesn't realize that she's giving him a look. Her expression says it all. She's trying to figure out if he's lost his mind. Maybe he fell, maybe he got struck by a spell, or maybe he just finally hit the reset button on his personality. Whatever the case, the version of Deculein standing here now feels like a total stranger. Before things get too weird, Deculein wraps it up. He says nothing more. His goals for the evening are complete. Store currency secured. A key character acknowledged, and best of all, he managed to leave the event without adding more enemies to the list. Ganesha watches him go. Before he turns away completely, he looks back and gives one last remark. No threats, no cold warnings, just a quiet jab of pride. He tells her that sending someone after her, that would be beneath him. And for the first time in years, Ganesha is left speechless. She stands still, unable to decide if she's impressed or deeply concerned. Back in the hall, Deculein takes a moment to think through everything. He replays his conversation with Ganesha in his mind. Things could have gone south very quickly. He does have the power and connections to cause her trouble through the guild network, thanks to his noble status. But taking that route would have been like dancing on a landmine. One misstep and boom, another death flag added to his growing collection. Then the system responds. It drops a message. A death variable has been avoided. That's the kind of news that makes a guy rethink every word he said that night. Apparently, if he had said even one wrong thing, Ganesha might have turned him into a floor stain. Imagine dying at a party just because you misread the mood. He wasn't even trying to gamble tonight. This was supposed to be a casual event. But in this strange world, even small talk can be deadly. Smiles are traps. Conversations are minefields, and Deculein somehow just walked through one and came out alive. Not far from him, across the event hall, another small storm brews. A girl with a confused and annoyed expression stands there. Really, she's related to Julie, the famous knight who also happens to be Deculein's awkward would-be fiancé. Rayleigh's patience is already thin. She looks at Julie, who's sitting like she wants the floor to swallow her whole, and asks what she's still doing here. Julie responds like someone who lost a bet just by waking up today. Clearly, she didn't want to be here in the first place. Her mood is so sour, it might curdle the drinks nearby. Rayleigh doesn't need a detective to figure out why. She jumps straight to the point and asks the one question Julie doesn't want to hear. It's about the professor. The moment those words leave her mouth, Julie's entire body tenses. That one question pokes a nerve like a needle to the spine. Rayleigh doesn't let up. She points out that she means Deculein. The whole room has been buzzing with whispers, rumors, and secondhand stories about their latest encounter. Most of them are not flattering. Julie doesn't hold back. She admits out loud what everyone already guessed, that their relationship is dead in the water. Whatever connection they had before is now buried under disappointment, silence, and unresolved grudges. And then fate decides to rub salt in the wound. The man himself shows up. Deculein walks near but doesn't stop, doesn't glance in her direction, doesn't give her even the courtesy of a passing nod. For a guy who supposedly loves parties, he leaves like he can't wait to be anywhere else. The nobles around them notice. Oh, they notice everything. Their eyes light up like it's Christmas morning. This silent walk-away says more than words ever could. To them, it's obvious Julie and Deculein had a serious falling out. Another crack in the perfect Yukline image. And for these bored aristocrats, it's better than entertainment. It is a free drama they can feed on for weeks. But the most ironic part is even Woojin, The guy who literally created this world and is now stuck inside Deculein didn't plan any of this. The original story never included moments like this. Julie and Deculein's awkward meltdown wasn't supposed to happen in public, which means things are changing fast. The plot is no longer under control. Even the villain of the story doesn't have plot armor anymore. A full week has passed since Deculein attended that chaotic social gathering, and this man has clearly been hitting the gym like he's preparing for the Magic Olympics. He's out here doing pull-ups like he's trying to become the first jacked wizard on a magazine cover. On top of his usual studies and telekinetic training, he adds physical workouts to his routine. Apparently, being smart isn't enough. Now he wants to look like he can crush a brick wall too. The sudden interest in fitness isn't just for show. Not long ago, this guy was coughing up blood on the floor like a drama queen in a tragic play. He tried combining fire control with his telekinetic powers, probably thinking he was unlocking some next-level combo like a gamer speedrunning real life. Any normal mage would have been sent straight to the afterlife with that kind of reckless experiment. But Deculein has a cheat code, his Iron Man attribute. Basically, he's Tony Stark if Tony decided to major in magical physics and bad life decisions. After surviving that near-death experience, he finally wakes up and realizes maybe it's time to build some stamina. That's how the workout plan starts. Now, thanks to his determination and sheer ego, he's beginning to look like a ripped model who moonlights as a college professor. It's ridiculous. You'd think he was preparing for a photo shoot instead of a magical audit. Once he finishes his flex-filled morning routine, it's time for work. Later, he is back to his office where Alan shows up like a loyal NPC with a message in hand. The letter is from the Magic Tower, one of those big-name, high-rank senders. Sounds serious already. Deculein opens it and finds out there is an audit hearing scheduled in 6 months. They want him to prepare documents related to his research. Basically, someone up there thinks he's taking too long and wants to poke around his work like it's some sort of delayed pizza order. This situation is more than annoying. It's dangerous. In this world, Deculein isn't just some professor for decoration. His title is directly tied to his chance of survival and escape. If he loses that title, he might also lose the only path back to his real body. And knowing how fragile this system is, that could be game over. Right now, Deculein decides to check his old laboratory to see if there's anything left that's actually useful. He steps into the room and immediately regrets not wearing gloves or a hazmat suit. The place looks like it got hit by a magical tornado and then abandoned for months. Broken equipment, scattered papers, and dust everywhere. It's hard to believe anyone smart wants work here. If Deculein had been using this lab regularly, no way he would have allowed it to fall into such a disaster zone. The mess isn't just bad, it's suspicious. There's one particularly gross corner that stands out, almost like someone tried to hide something under the world's worst pile of junk. He doesn't waste time getting his hands dirty, though. With a flick of telekinetic magic, he sorts through the trash like a rich kid too good to clean his own room. Among the wreckage, he finds a strange book. It's sealed and encrypted like someone was trying really hard to make sure no one else could read it. And guess who that someone was? Yep, Deculein himself. Classic move. Hide your genius in a mess, then forget where you put it. Thankfully, Woojin's skills make decoding the book pretty easy. Thanks to his comprehension ability, he unlocks it with little effort. The moment the book opens, a bright golden light shines from the pages like it's trying to flex its importance. This is no ordinary journal. It's loaded with research that seems way ahead of its time. His wealthy magnate and sharp eyesight attributes kick in, confirming the book is valuable. But there's a catch, it's incomplete. Lots of pages are torn out or left blank. Even so, the research glows with promise, like it's begging to be finished. Then something unexpected catches his eye. A pendant. Inside is a picture of Ephraim Luna and her father. That's when the pieces fall into place. Turns out her father used to work under Deculein as a researcher. And not in a fun, friendly mentor way, more like to squeeze every drop of work out of you and take the credit way. This explains everything. The Luna family has every reason to hate his guts. Because of Deculein's selfish ambition, Ephraim has grown up carrying the weight of a broken past and her father's suffering. He literally tortured her dad's reputation just to boost his own name. Now something in Deculein finally shifts. Maybe it's guilt, or maybe Woojin's influence is finally getting through that thick, arrogant skull. He makes a decision. He's going to finish the research, not just for power or prestige, but to finally give credit where it's due. Once it's complete, he plans to add her father's name as a co-author. A small step toward redemption, but let's be real, he still owes Ephraim like 20 more apologies and a lifetime supply of therapy. Inside one of the university cafes, a group of commoner students have gathered like a small rebellion squad. They're tired of getting stepped on by the nobles, so they've decided to form their own group. Strength in numbers. If they don't stick together now, the nobles will happily pull the rug from under them without blinking. Ephraim is among them, and suddenly she's put on the spot. Someone asks what she thinks. She looks like someone who just got caught in the headlights. The question hits hard, especially since her past is complicated. Technically, she used to be a noble herself, but that life is long gone. These days, she doesn't even have a proper home under her name. She's practically living like a magical couch hopper. One of them, Julia, has accepted Ephraim like she's a long-lost sister. The rest of the group has even declared her as their representative. Somehow, she's now the voice of the commoners. It's probably not what she had in mind when she walked in looking for a snack. One of them suggests they make the club official by getting a professor's approval. Seems like that's the final hurdle. They toss around names, but none of them are promising. Professor Relin is dismissed immediately. He's basically a noble guard dog and a teacher's robe. Professor Carmel has the same problem. Might as well ask a statue for help. Then someone brings up Professor Deculein. That name alone makes people pause. Most of the group assumes he's a no-go. He's known for being cold and distant. Basically, the guy looks down on everyone like they're ants on his carpet. During all this talk, Ephraim isn't even paying attention. Her eyes are locked on a strawberry dessert sitting on the table like it's the crown jewel of the room. She's probably more emotionally invested in that dessert than in the entire conversation. But Julia is full of confidence. She believes they should ask Deculein for help. Somehow, she decides that Ephraim is the perfect person to deliver the request. Judging by Ephraim's wide-eyed reaction, she had absolutely no idea she just got volunteered. She looks like she just got handed a bomb and no instructions. A guy in the group agrees with the idea. He argues that Deculein might be their best option, not because he's kind, but because he's equally rude to everyone. That weird logic actually makes sense to them. Since Ephraim got away without punishment the other day, they think the professor might actually like her. Or at least tolerate her slightly more than the rest of the planet. Ephraim quickly shuts that idea down. She's not thrilled the topic suddenly shifted to her supposed relationship with the professor. She looks more annoyed than flattered. Ephraim makes it very clear she wants absolutely nothing to do with Deculein. The second someone even hints at asking him for help, she takes off like she's running from a crime scene. But Julia is persistent. She dashes after her like it's some cheesy romantic drama, hoping Ephraim might change her mind. Ephraim finally stops, turns, and explains again that whatever ideas people have about her and Deculein, they need to drop them. She's not interested in playing messenger for a man who practically invented arrogance. Then something unexpected happens. Julia suddenly freezes like she's just seen a ghost. Ephraim looks at her, confused about why she's gone stiff. That's when she turns around and sees the one person she really didn't want to see, Deculein. There he is, showing up at the worst possible time like a walking plot twist. Now stuck face to face with the one professor who gives off final boss energy, Ephraim stands there unsure of what to say. But then, she does something brave and a little desperate. She gathers her courage and speaks up, asking for the club's creation and his official approval. This is something she never thought she'd do. It's embarrassing and she's fully expecting to be shot down. Deculein doesn't exactly have a history of doing favors for commoners, but surprisingly, Ephraim decides to roll the dice. Even though Julia's plan was completely chaotic, the idea behind it wasn't too bad. Then the unthinkable happens. Deculein takes the letter, signs it, and even asks for the full details to be sent to his office. No drama, no scolding, just a clean signature. Ephraim is stunned. She holds the paper like it's a golden ticket. For a moment, she's convinced the man has multiple personalities because she can't figure him out at all. One day he's ice cold, the next he's approving club forms like a school counselor of free time. Julia, now bouncing with joy, celebrates Ephraim's success like she just won the lottery. Meanwhile, Ephraim is left wondering why Deculein is being nice to her specifically. It's not like she did anything to deserve this VIP treatment. The whole situation is confusing, and she doesn't know if she should be happy or just suspicious. Later on, back to the lecture hall. Deculein, back in his usual professor mode, begins teaching a lesson on elements. These are supposed to be the core of magic, the basic building blocks. And yet most of the mage students still look like they're trying to solve a mystery. Apparently, many of them can't even tell the difference between pure and categorical elements, proof that even in a magic world, students are still confused in class. Ephraim's mind completely drifts off during the lecture. Her body sits in class, but her thoughts are far away. She keeps wondering why Deculein is suddenly acting like a kind person. Is it guilt? Sympathy? Maybe he finally grew a heart. Hard to say. The problem is, this is the same man who made her father's life a living nightmare, so bad that it pushed him straight into the grave. No amount of helpful acts or polite behavior can cover that up. To her, it all feels fake. If he really does feel responsible, then he shouldn't be hiding behind this professor mask. He should own up to everything and tell the truth to the entire world. That's the least he could do. Instead, he's playing the role of the wise and generous teacher like nothing ever happened. Ephraim fidgets in her seat, clearly frustrated. Julia, sitting nearby, notices the strange energy and asks if she's okay. This snaps Ephraim out of her thoughts for a moment. Julia, being her usual chaotic self, assumes her friend is upset because of the group of students sitting nearby. Ephraim looks confused for a second, then remembers across the table sit several noble students, including Sylvia, the magic princess with an ego larger than the academy gates. Thanks to the little incident from the other day, Ephraim's now enemy number one in every noble circle. She didn't just ruffle feathers, she kicked the whole birdcage. Even though the glares are obvious, Ephraim tells Julia it's fine. Right now, she just wants to focus on the lecture, even if part of her still wants to chuck a spell across the room. Back at the front of the class, Deculein continues his lesson. He starts diving deep into the topic of magic circles and their structure. And surprisingly, the lecture isn't boring at all. In fact, it's impressive. Ephraim remembers that his classes used to be more about flexing his power and bossing people around. Every lesson felt like a performance starring Deculein and his giant ego. But something has changed. The man teaching now is different. He explains everything with a deep understanding of magic. He's not just showing off anymore. He's actually teaching, and the beauty of the subject is coming through. Even Sylvia, who usually acts too cool for school thanks to her natural talent, finds herself paying attention. This lecture feels new, exciting. Deculein draws a magic circle for water, then combines it with one for fire. The result is a strange purple circle that makes fire flow like water, smooth, liquid, and mesmerizing. The entire class lights up with excitement. Even the usual snobs look like kids watching fireworks for the first time. For once, Deculein doesn't just command respect, he earns it. Sylvia, of all people, looks like she's having a personal crisis in the middle of the lecture. She's someone who always believed that theory was just extra noise. Most talented mages like her usually cast spells using pure instinct and natural ability. That's how it's always worked, just wave your hand and boom, you're a genius. Reading books was for the slow ones. The idea of combining deep theoretical knowledge with actual spellcasting feels almost offensive to people like her. If every mage started caring about theory, then magic would lose its mystery and become something any average person could learn. That thought alone probably keeps nobles up at night. The truth is, too much theory can actually get in the way. Some mages waste years trying to understand magic like it's a math problem, and by the time they get it, someone else has already mastered it through gut feeling. That's the strange paradox of magic. To be a genius, you need incredible instinct. But even the most gifted mages can explain where their intuition comes from. They just have it and brag about it like it's their birthright. So seeing Deculein, the professor with a history of cold stares and a reputation built on mystery and arrogance, suddenly dive into these complex theories. That's a shock to Sylvia's system. The man is ranked high enough to do whatever he wants. He could be teaching how to look intimidating 101 and no one would question him. But instead, he's walking the class through deep magical mechanics like he actually cares. And worse, he's good at it. By the time the lecture ends, Ephraim is also thrown off. She never expected the professor to be so competent. Her usual image of him as a smug villain is starting to crack. She was so caught up in the lecture, she didn't even notice time passing. Then real life returns with a punch. Just outside the lecture room, a loud pile of insults starts echoing from the hallway. It's the noble students again, basically a walking drama club with too much free time. Ever since the whole conflict with Sylvia, Ephraim's become their favorite punching bag. But then, something strange happens. She notices an envelope under her door. Inside is a sponsorship certificate. Her first reaction is exactly what anyone would expect. It has to be a joke. No way someone from House AAA, the house that probably prints hate mail about her, would sponsor her. That would be like a dragon sending someone a thank you card. Still, she decides to check it out properly. If it turns out to be a trick, she can at least report it. So she heads to the Magical Administration office, ready to be disappointed. But reality hits differently. The receptionist confirms the seal is authentic. It's real. Her heart actually jumps at that moment. Her face lights up like someone just handed her the universe. She can't hide it. Joy explodes across her expression, and she's practically glowing. She even grabs her own cheeks to check if this is some kind of twisted dream. It's unbelievable. But then panic kicks in. She suddenly looks around like she just remembered she's in public. What if someone saw her grinning like an idiot? That would ruin everything. So she does what any awkward panicked mage would do. She ducks under the table and hides. She tries to stay small, like her joy might get stolen if anyone spots it. After all, this isn't just pocket money. She's holding ownership over 100,000 L, basically the magical world's version of winning 100 million won. And here she is, reacting like she just robbed a royal vault and is waiting for the guards to bust in. Her brain hits full meltdown mode. She starts packing her things like she's about to go on the run. The staff at the office glance at her with suspicion, probably wondering if they just handed a fortune to someone who still doesn't know how taxes work. In her frantic mess, she even bangs her head on the underside of the table. That little bump finally convinces her this isn't a dream. This madness is actually happening. The sheer absurdity makes her tear up. For someone who spent so much of her life ignored, mocked, and underestimated, this moment feels like a miracle. Finally, someone out there saw her potential. It doesn't erase the past, but it gives her something she hasn't felt in a long time: hope. Maybe now she has a reason to push harder and believe in herself. Meanwhile, over at Yukline Manor, trouble is brewing in another corner of the world. Deculeine's half-sister finds out that he's heading to the Schatz and Jewel auction again. The name alone is enough to make her blood pressure rise. She still hasn't forgotten how this maniac threw away 10 million L at last year's event like he was ordering fast food. And now he's going back for round 2. She was already preparing for the worst, probably calculating how much of the family fortune will disappear this time. Honestly, having Deculein in charge of money feels like giving a dragon a credit card. Disaster is guaranteed. Meanwhile, at the auction site, Deculein is walking in the VIP lounge like a man who's about to buy something that actually matters. Ever since he first started using telekinesis, he knew something was missing. The magic was decent, but his materials were trash. His current setup involved wood and steel, a mix that screams budget version. Back then, he knew it was a temporary fix. Today, though, the real thing is finally here. A proper metal, one worthy of his upgraded powers and absurd ego, is going up for auction. So naturally, he's dressed in full dramatic professor mode, waiting for his moment like it's the season finale of his own life. But fate isn't done messing with him yet. Across the room, he spots someone he did not want to see. Julie, his so-called fiancée. The reunion isn't sweet. She sees him, stands up with the speed of someone ready to throw hands, and storms over like she's about to file a complaint with her sword. Julie is clearly fed up. Her entire expression screams, "Why are you here again?" It's the classic energy of a girlfriend mad because you ghosted her for the 100th time. She immediately brings up that old committee incident with Sylvia and Ephraim, the one where Deculein basically decided to play judge, jury, and executioner. He looks at her like she's bringing up homework from 5 semesters ago. He doesn't get why she's so worked up. In his mind, that mess is ancient history. But Julie, she's not letting it slide. She accuses him of killing students' dreams with his constant sour attitude. She basically tells him to stop being a one-man dream crusher before he ruins more lives. Then she drops what might be her final warning, worded politely, but with the emotional punch of a breakup letter. Her tone makes it pretty obvious. She's done with him. Deculein, standing there all cool and detached, isn't surprised. In fact, he welcomes it. Her stunning looks don't fool him anymore. He doesn't plan on marrying her, not in this world, not even a fake life where everything is scripted. The truth is, Julie is a walking bundle of problems. She carries more death flags than a cursed video game character. If you were to go through with the marriage, you might not even survive the honeymoon. Deculein figures it's better to avoid that disaster now than get haunted by it later. Deculein stays quiet and she turns to leave, but his mind is racing. It doesn't make sense to him. She isn't the kind of person who likes auctions. These events are boring, expensive, and full of people who speak in fake smiles. So what is she doing here? His curiosity gets the better of him. To mess with her a little, he asks her if she came all the way to the auction to tell him that. Instantly, Julie turns. She's enraged. She tells him that he is just full of himself and there is no way she would come to look for him. She acts like she came for something important, but even she can't hide the way her voice rises 10 levels in 2 seconds. 1 second she's calm, the next she's throwing a tantrum. Deculein says he gets it and tells her to chill out, and now she's left glaring, sulking like someone just stole her lunch. Funny enough, that pouty face actually makes him pause. For the first time, he catches himself thinking it's kind of cute. The same woman who's been a walking argument machine all this time is suddenly making him hesitate. Right when he's mentally listing all the reasons why getting close to her would be dangerous, this weird emotion sneaks up on him. His guard slips just for a second. It doesn't feel like him, it feels like Deculein's emotions are bleeding into Kim Woojin's. Until now, he's done a decent job of keeping his real personality separate from the one he's stuck playing. But maybe that line is starting to blur. Just then, an announcement booms through the auction hall, snapping him back to reality. The event is officially starting. He quickly shakes off the thoughts. There's no way he's catching feelings. Must be the body reacting on its own. Nothing more. At the auction, the first item is brought out. It's a vase. It sounds boring at first, but this one's different. It's crafted by a rare artisan from the East, and it glows with magical energy. The golden shimmer is so strong it actually reaches all the way to Deculein like it's calling him by name. He instantly recognizes the glow. Because of his skill, Midas touch, he can see the value of things by the golden energy they emit, and this glow matches the same energy he found in his research. That alone tells him this vase isn't just decoration, it's a magical relic worth every coin. The host starts taking bids and people throw in their offers like it's a game. Then Deculein ends it with one move, 2.5 million L. The moment he drops that number, the rune falls silent. Game over. He gets the vase instantly, but money isn't a concern for him. The guy has enough cash stashed away to fund a private army. What really matters is value, and this vase has it. It's not just expensive. It's important. That's how he plays the game. Buy the future, not the price tag. The auction continues and Deculein turns into a full-blown collector. One by one, high-value items fall into his hands like he's on a magical shopping spree. A rare ring? Taken. A pair of special scissors? Snatched. A rune-covered necklace? His now. At this point, he's treating the auction like it's his personal loot box. And just when people think he might finally slow down, he casually drops a ridiculous bid, 5.5 million L. That number alone could make nobles faint. The entire hall stares at him, stunned that this professor is throwing around money like it's confetti. Julie, watching from the sidelines, looks like she's about to explode. In her eyes, he's not a professor, he's a bored rich guy with a drama addiction. She can't understand what kind of person wastes this much gold just to make a statement. Their personalities clash like fire and ice, and to her, he's clearly all about showing off. But she didn't come here to watch his circus act. She has her own goal. Her eyes are locked on a very specific item, Winter's Fire. It's not just rare, it's legendary. This final item appears on stage, and the entire auction house falls into a hush. The ore glows with both the power of flames and the chill of frost. That jewel energy makes it one of the rarest magical resources ever found in this world. Only dragon bones beat it in value, and even that's up for debate. Julie wants it. Deculein wants it too. This is where things get tense. Bidding kicks off, and the numbers rise fast. The price shoots up to 30 million L. Julie joins in with confidence, her face lighting up when she sees the other bidders dropping out. For a brief moment, she believes she has it. That shiny, perfect win is almost in her hands. Then reality hits like a magical slap. Deculein casually slides in with a bid of 31 million L. No drama, no warning. Just enough to ruin her entire mood in one smooth move. Julie turns, completely fed up. Of course he would pull something like this. She can't figure out if he's just being a troll or if there's some secret plan behind his smug silence. Either way, she looks ready to throw the auction table out the window. Julie doesn't want Deculein anywhere near the one item she actually came here to get. This isn't just another shiny toy, it's Winter's Fire, the one thing she's been waiting for. So she throws down a bold bid of 32 million L. It's a clear message. But Deculein is built for pettiness. He immediately raises the bid to 33 million like it's just spare change. People watching the whole thing start whispering. A professor bidding so hard for a sword-forging stone. It's weird. Most of them assume he must be buying it for his fiancée. That would explain why he's stopping her from getting it herself. In their minds, it's just a strange way of being romantic. Then it hits Deculein. He suddenly realizes he's been locked in a bidding war with Julie this whole time. That confirms one thing, she's personally attached to this stone. Which also means if he wins it, she's going to hate him forever. No surprise there. But here's the problem. He wants it too. This is the first time in 3 whole years that the snowflake stone has even shown up. The item is insanely rare, and missing this chance might cost him more than just money. It's a risk, but Deculein is the kind of guy who eats risk for breakfast, along with a side of cold logic and dramatic flair. So he decides to go all in. The bidding war escalates like 2 kids fighting over the last cookie. The numbers climb fast until the price finally hits 42 million L. And just like that, the stone is sold. To Professor Deculein. The audience bursts into applause like they just watched a legendary duel. But let's be honest, it was 2 adults throwing massive piles of money at each other like they were swatting flies. People laugh thinking Julie was the stubborn one the whole time. They assumed Deculein only bought the stone to gift it to her anyway. From their clueless point of view, he's just a dramatic fiancé with deep pockets and strange taste. Julie, on the other hand, is ready to explode. Her anger is boiling over. She feels like they are repeating last year. This whole mess reminds her too much of what happened last year, when Deculein tried to impress her with expensive gifts and flashy jewelry on their engagement day that he had won after bidding for almost every shin thing. She doesn't remember that as a celebration. She remembers it as one of the worst days of her life. No matter how shiny the gifts, everything from him always ends in disaster. The Deculein from back then was all about showing off. Power, money, status, he treated life like a giant contest, and he had to win every round. That attitude is exactly why Julie hated him. He flaunted everything except the one thing she actually wanted from him, And no, it wasn't some steamy romance drama, so calm down, you gremlins. What she wanted was respect, just basic human respect, but he never gave her that. Back on their engagement day, it wasn't just Ruin who was practically set on fire, and she was the one holding the match. Julie, despite being a knight with rank and dignity, still ended up tied to a man with a personality made of stone and sarcasm. Sure, she got promoted to captain for it, but people never shut up about their relationship. Gossip flew everywhere and none of it was flattering. The worst part is that she knew Deculein himself had a hand in starting those nasty rumors. It wasn't enough to hurt her in private, he wanted the world to whisper behind her back. That was the day she made up her mind. Deculein wasn't worthy of her love, her loyalty, or even her time. Now she feels a similar sting. The same old frustration rises again, but then something unexpected happens. Deculein walks up to her, and instead of acting like the smug overlord he usually is, his face softens. He asks if she was also after the snowflake stone. Julie, already on the edge, takes this as yet another jab and prepares to fire back. But then, he says something no one would ever expect from a man like him. He apologizes. The word hits her like a spell to the face. She freezes. For a full second, her brain refuses to believe what she just heard. Deculein? Saying sorry? That's like a volcano politely asking for permission to erupt. Before she can react, he turns and walks away, leaving her standing there like someone who just got emotionally ambushed. Her thoughts spiral out of control. What was the meaning behind that apology? Was it real? Was it part of some bigger scheme? She has no idea. On her way out, she bumps into Josephine, her older sister. The woman, regal and confident as ever, tells her to come along for a ride. Honestly, Julie could use a break before her brain overheats from overthinking. Meanwhile, Deculein knows full well why Julie's so upset. He took something she deeply wanted, but even after all that, there's no sign of danger, no death flags, no cursed side effects. It's strange. The whole situation forces him to think about the original Deculein's personality. The man who, in another timeline, made Julie hate him so much that she actually killed him. Back at home, Deculein walks in expecting a quiet evening, but he's greeted by his maids wearing expressions that practically scream that he's in trouble. Something's clearly wrong, and the mood in the house is heavier than usual. The moment they mention a visit from his half-sister, Uriel, his whole body stiffens like someone just threatened his bank account. Uriel doesn't even give him a second to prepare. 1 second, she's nowhere to be seen. The next, she pops up behind him like a ninja fueled by financial rage. Her expression says everything. This girl is on the verge of exploding, and she doesn't waste time. She goes straight in, furious that he just blew through a mountain of money at the auction. That cash, by the way, was supposed to go toward expanding their mining operations. You know, something productive. To calm the situation, Deculein tries the classic rich guy excuse. He tells her that he bought something valuable and that it'll definitely bring profit. Sounds nice, right? Problem is, Uriel's not buying it. In her eyes, he looks like someone using her effort and resources like a bottomless piggy bank. Her whole mood shifts. The hurt is written all over her face, and it's honestly painful to watch, even if she's yelling. She doesn't hold back. Her voice sharpens, and she tells him the truth he probably never wants to hear. She's tired. Tired of cleaning up after his careless spending sprees. Tired of being the responsible one in this cursed family dynamic. And most of all, tired of feeling like her hard work means nothing. To make things worse, her aura starts glowing red. Not pink. Not soft and sad. It's dangerous red, the kind of red that says someone's about to catch hands. And Deculein finally realizes how close he is to death. His villain's fate attribute kicks in, which is basically the universe's way of saying that he has messed up. He also sees golden light in her aura, which only adds more confusion. That light means this moment could actually turn into a big opportunity, but only if he handles it right. So what does this brilliant professor decide to do? He tells her not to worry. That's it. That's the plan. And that right there is his worst move yet. After everything she just said, this guy thinks a calm little "don't worry" is enough to fix things. Uriel reacts exactly how you'd expect. She explodes. Her voice rises with years of frustration. She lays out every single thing she's gone through. Every bit of stress, every sacrifice, every sleepless night, just so her brother could keep acting like some gold-plated disaster with no sense of consequences. Deculein, ever the smooth talker, tells Uriel she didn't have to go through all that pain, which is funny because he's literally the reason she had to. Uriel, still boiling with rage, reminds him just how bad things got after their parents died. Their estate nearly fell apart, and surprise, surprise, he was at the center of that disaster. And let's not forget the man just erased 150 million L in one day like he was deleting spam emails. Then, out of nowhere, Deculein drops a bomb. He tells her she can have the position of head of House Yukline. Just like that, he doesn't shout it. He doesn't make a scene. He just casually offers her everything she's been fighting to protect. Uriel freezes. For once, she's speechless. This is the last thing she expected. Her brain short-circuits trying to figure out if he's serious or just pulling one of his twisted jokes. Deculein, with his usual blank face, repeats himself. He means every word. She stares at him like he's grown a second head. Her first thought is that he must have taken a nasty fall and hit something important, like his sense of superiority. She figures he's trolling, but Deculein thinks she's just being dramatic as always. To prove he's serious, he even offers to take a deadly oath on it. That's right, he's ready to put his life on the line just to prove he's not playing around. Now Uriel is completely thrown off. This is not the same guy who usually treats every conversation like a chess match. She doesn't understand where this sudden humility is coming from. Maybe he's sick. Maybe he's possessed. Or maybe this is his new way of avoiding work. Still, she doesn't back down. She makes it very clear, if he dares to take back his word, she'll put him 6 feet under without hesitation. Then she storms out, determined to clean up whatever new mess he's created with that oversized brain and underused judgment. With Uriel finally gone, Deculein lets out a long breath like someone who just barely dodged a lightning strike. The system rewards him with 2 points for successfully preventing a death variable, and honestly, he feels like he earned every bit of that. No fists were thrown, no swords were drawn, and best of all, he's still alive. That alone feels like a personal achievement. He doesn't mind giving up the position of head. In fact, it's a relief. Less responsibility means fewer chances to mess up and fewer chances to die in some dramatic family feud. In his mind, if things keep going at this pace, his plan to escape this twisted world might actually work. Then, like the universe just loves dropping surprises on him, Ganesha shows up out of nowhere. The woman clearly has no concept of knocking or warning. She walks in and says she heard everything, and she's impressed. Apparently, she really believes he's trying to change. Deculein doesn't see the big deal. From his point of view, Uriel is just better suited for the role. She's got the brains, the drive, and the emotional range of a sledgehammer, perfect for politics. But Ganesha has more to say. She casually drops a bomb that hits harder than her fists. Uriel, the same girl who's been bossing him around since childhood, doesn't have even a trace of Yukline blood. That catches him off guard. Sure, he always knew they weren't biologically related, but this is new. No connection at all. That wasn't in the game. Not even a hint. The shock runs deep. I hope that you liked today's video, and if you did, hit that like button as today's goal is 1,500 likes. Comment next part down below for the next part. Also, consider subscribing with the notification bell on to get notified as soon as a new video drops onto the channel. You can also join the channel to support me financially and watch videos before public release. I'll meet you in the next video. Until then, thanks for watching.